Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Lex and I'm an exercise scientist and strength and conditioning coach. I've been writing programs for the last 10 years, and this is a 5-step process that's going to allow you to write your own program very easily. So I'm going to break it down as easily as I can, and by the end of this video you're going to be able to write your own program either for yourself or your clients. The first step is to consider frequency. How many times a week are you going to train? So you can do it 2 times a week, you can do it 5 times a week. It's really up to you. Personally, for me, I think the sweet spot is going to be 3 to 4 times per week for most people out there with general goals. However, if you're in a more competitive space, obviously 5 to 6 times a week is not uncommon. But if you're in that space, you're probably going to get your programs written by your own coach. So consider frequency, and that is going to set a base for your program. So second thing to consider is exercise selection. So exercise selection is going to be based on your goals. Make sure you're picking exercises towards your own goals or a client's goals. And that's going to be also determined by the frequency that you're training. So if you're going to be training twice a week, make sure those exercises are going to be efficient at achieving those goals. So for example, if my goal is to increase muscle mass in the upper body and I can only train twice a week, I'm most likely going to put more upper body exercises that are compound movements and only a few leg exercises, if any. I personally like to do the whole body, so I would select exercises that cover the entire body, but you might just choose upper body exercises if increasing upper body strength is your goal. So you can really play with however you want it, but based on how often you're training per week, you want to select exercises that are bang for buck. So if we're doing upper body strength, we want to select all the upper body exercises that are mainly compound movements like bench presses, lat pull downs, dips, shoulder presses, all those multi-joint exercises that are going to be bang for buck. If you're going to be training more frequently, so if you have more days in the week, you can select more exercises, and therefore I would just select exercises that cover the whole body. But consider your goals. So make sure those exercises are targeted towards yourself in terms of goals or your clients. So third most important thing, step number 3, is reps and sets. So reps and sets are going to determine how much stimulus you're going to place on your muscle groups or even just your adaptations in the future. So make sure when you're picking your reps and sets, consider the goals as well. Does your client or yourself want to do more strength-based, bodybuilding-based, or just for general health and well-being? Personally, I always start with 3 sets of 10, and some of the exercises like big compound movements like deadlifts and squats, I would just do even 5 to 8 reps because they do take a lot out of you. And make sure when you're doing reps and sets, you're keeping between the 3 to 20 rep range. I think after 20 reps, there's not much use going higher than that, and anything below 3 reps is more like a strength test. So I would really consider those rep ranges. Now I know that's quite vast, but generally speaking, the lower reps you go, the more weight you're gonna have to use on that exercise. So if you're doing more of a strength type program, you're gonna gear more towards the lower end. And if you're doing a more bodybuilding type program, you're gonna gear towards more of the 8 to 15 range. And for rehab purposes, even higher than that. Sets, on the other hand, you can get away with even 2 sets depending on what level you are starting at and what the purpose is. But generally 3 to 4 sets is really the sweet spot. So let's go to the next part. Step number 4 is progression. Progression is such an important part in programming because this allows you to make progress over a long-term period. So if you're doing the same weight over and over again or the same reps and sets and you're not changing anything throughout the weeks of your program, most likely you're not going to make much gains or progress. So we want to progress your program each week, maybe even fortnightly, depending on who you are and who you're designing this program for. I would personally adjust 3 things in progression, which is frequency, the weight, the reps and sets. So those are the 3 things. If the program you're doing is a bit of a slower progression, you can just increase the reps over the number of weeks. So you might start week 1 with 8 reps, and then by week 4 you're working up to 15 reps, and then you can increase the weight. You can also increase the weight after your first week. It's really up to you, or increase the set. Anything that increases the intensity or the workload is going to allow for progression. So it really is up to you how you design your progressions. So I personally like to do a bit of volume at the start. So I'd like to do 10 reps, and then I would increase a couple of reps on the next week, and then I'll increase the weight, and then I might add another set in. So it's really up to you and what you think is best for yourself or your client. So finally, this is the least important, but I still think it's somewhat important if you got time constraints, is rest periods. Rest periods can either lengthen your workout or shorten the workout or even intensify the workout. So as I said from the very beginning, if your goals are to get more strength, you might want to lengthen those rest periods between sets. If your goal is general fitness, you might limit your rest periods to 2 to 3 minutes. Or if you're doing some sort of metabolic type training for fitness, high intensity, you might really gauge those rest periods over the weeks that you're programming for. And it could start from a rest period of 1 minute to 45 seconds to 30 seconds to the last week, maybe just even 20 seconds. Those are the 5 steps to creating your own program. Let's just recap that. Number 1 is frequency. Number 2 is exercise selection. Number 3 is reps and sets. Number 4 is progression. And finally, number 5, rest periods. If you found this type of information helpful, give it a like and comment down below if you want to see a bigger breakdown in those categories so I can explain it a bit more in depth. But this is a very basic explanation of how to design your program. And once you get your first program done and your next program done, you are going to have a feel for what is right for you or your client. And over the course of how many programs you write, you're going to gain more experience and you're going to know how to program exactly for that specific goal. All right, and that's the end of the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and see you guys on the next video.